We will begin as always. Rebecca noting for the record that we have a quorum. 2 members are missing, but we still have a quorum. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from our July meeting. Members of the commission, you've had a chance to review those minutes. What's your pleasure?
Move approval.
Is there,
I wasn't here, but I'll second.
all right, motion and a second. Any discussion of the minutes? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, well, let's move on to our new business. The first request is that of Kim Fry at 24 East Sharon for a new fence, actually 2 new fences, if I understand correctly. Is Miss Fry in the audience? Oh, good timing.
Yes, perfect timing.
I'm not sure you've ever been before this commission, but we've all had an opportunity to review your application, so we know what you're proposing. You can speak as much or as little as you want by way of introduction, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, I just moved in about a month ago, and I have a dog, so I need a fence for one reason, and so I'm looking to put a split rail in the backyard, and a white picket fence in the front yard.
Thank you. Members of the commission?
And the white picket fence in the front would be vinyl?
PVC vinyl, you know, upper, higher level of vinyl. I didn't want the cheap looking kind, to be honest, so they assured me it's a high quality white PVC vinyl fence.
If you look at our guidelines, while picket fence is approved, a picket fence is okay. Vinyl is not one that we like to approve because it's not consistent with the other things in the village. There is some people who put it up. Are there not?
I don't know if we've had any in the front yard though, like right at the
Right.
sidewalk like
Yeah.
that.
Right.
We've had them in the rear yard,
Yeah.
but I don't think we've had any. This is right at the sidewalk.
Yeah.
I thought I did see one over by the square that was a white picket vinyl fence in the front yard. It's kind of,
I think I know which one you're talking about, next to Euclid's.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And it's falling apart.
Yep.
Covered.
That may be one that.
they added pictures, if you can look at it.
That was gonna be my question. I haven't seen pictures of the
Is there
site.
no photos of it?
Just the site.
No, just the site plan and a verbal description, really. It's more of a contract, terms and conditions.
Okay, I
That
thought
fence
that-
next to Euclid's might have been put in before it even had to be approved by us.
Yeah, that's been there since I lived here.
Yeah.
And the guidelines were adopted in
And it's
2004?
It's pretty much falling apart. But
Yeah.
And
The split rail in the back is fine. That's perfectly fine. Could you share that? Do you have the guidelines to share with me?
I do have the guidelines. It doesn't specifically mention vinyl. It says fencing materials and patterns should take their cues from existing historic materials or patterns of neighboring properties. Wood, picket, and wrought iron are the most typical. And yes, I think we have approved a backyard vinyl fence, but I think approving it right on the sidewalk
And it's right
in a
on the
National
sidewalk.
Historic Landmark District would set a very bad precedent. So, so I would recommend approval of your application, but substituting painted wood for vinyl.
Or wrought iron, or aluminum.
Wrought iron?
I mean,
Okay.
wrought iron or aluminum. I mean, wrought iron is
Well,
very expensive.
that's-
Aluminum and vinyl are
Yeah.
not that different in cost.
Okay, I'll check. I think it's closer to aluminum. It looks better than the vinyl or aluminum, in my opinion, if I send you a picture. But, you know, I could take a look at their aluminum or.
Well, you know, if you would bring up pictures or a
Yeah, I
sample.
can get pictures.
People have brought in samples before too.
Yeah, I'd move that we postpone this until the next meeting.
Okay, so
I
I
was
made a
very
motion
hesitant
already.
about the vinyl myself before I saw the images, to be honest. I I didn't want to do
It's a lot, it's hard to tell from an image. We
Yeah.
have to see the material itself.
Okay, so should I withdraw
Yeah,
the
withdrawal, that
motion?
would be most appropriate.
Okay, I withdraw the motion.
Is there a
So is
motion?
that the-
And
Well, the discussion now is to defer
it
action.
wasn't seconded.
No. So the discussion now is to defer action until our September 12 meeting. Give you an opportunity to look into aluminum, metal, or wood fence. Bring samples if you want. Come back here to us.
You would approve wrought iron though?
Another
I've been
option.
waiting weeks, 60 weeks they have promised, so it's about September, middle of September that I'm hoping to get it installed. So you would approve wrought iron though, if I have to go with that?
If we want to see it. though.
Yeah, we'd have to see it. We don't have any pictures of even the vinyl fence, so I would, and that trees
I
alone.
can send them to you now.
It wouldn't help, really.
And there
Yeah.
are aluminum fences that look like wrought iron.
Right, and,
That
and
would
and
be
you'd much
accepted.
prefer to do that.
Yeah.
It would be less expensive
Maintenance-wise.
and less, and less maintenance.
So you'd want to go with aluminum that looks like wrought iron,
And
or
that
a,
would
or
be
a wood
approved-
picket.
Approved, because I can't put off this fence any longer. Well, at least I
Well-
could, maybe
Well,
for the front, but.
Yeah,
back,
you'd have it in the back.
Well, we could approve
You wanna
the,
approve the back?
the picket, I mean, the split rail in the back, we could split it and approve that and just and defer the other one.
Would you prefer that?
Yeah, I mean, that's better than anything if, I think they wanted to do it at the same time, but,
Well, there's a possibility that they may still be able to do it at the same time if we approve it at the September meeting.
is September 12th, is it? Okay. Okay.
So who made the motion? You? You
I-
made
I-
the motion to
To
postpone.
defer, so I will withdraw that motion. I move that we approve the rear fence and we postpone as submitted, and we postpone the front fence until the September meeting.
I'll second that.
All right. Any discussion, members of the commission, on the motion? Anyone in the audience wish to address this application? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
The safest thing is to bring a sample if you could.
Okay, okay.
All right, let's move right along then to our next item of business, which is the request of Daniel Groll at 1170 North Troy for solar panels. Is Mr. Groll? You've just now seen how we operate. We've all had an opportunity to review your application. You can say as little or as much as you want, and we'll take it from there.
Okay.
Would you stand up to the, because this is being broadcast by
Okay.
the cable clubs.
Yeah, there's solar panels that are framed for the back of my garage and the back of my bedroom addition, one of the upper roofs. They're not on any roofs that face the road, which I understand is some of your conditions.
Right, and there's one on the side, is that right? On the south side?
Yeah,
Yes.
there's two roofs that face south. They
Yeah.
tend to-
But they're behind the other roof the way I saw
Mhm.
it based on what I looked at.
Behind the
Yeah.
garage roof, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And these panels are flat to the roof? They're not at a different pitch?
They're flat to the roof, and they're black, same color as the asphalt shingles.
Now, what, the materials they submitted for, included what they call silver on black, which is silver bands in the middle between the cells.
Okay.
And you can get what's known as triple black, which I'll tell you looks better.
Okay.
We don't have a requirement for it in our, but if you can get it for the same price, which usually you can, you don't have that grid look on the panels.
I'll keep that in mind. I know they made a change too. They're supposed to be all black. There's some shortage in
Got it.
panels and.
I mean, we're not gonna see them, I'm just telling you what
Oh,
the
okay.
comments from other people, so.
And also, there's a tubing, like conduit, that usually connects through them.
Okay.
And if they can paint that black for you, otherwise it's literally gonna stand out on your roof.
That would
Yeah.
look better.
Truly stand out.
Yeah,
We have them in our neighborhood, and it's just standing there, you can just see them wherever they've substituted without being approved. You can see it.
Okay.
yeah. And that, I move that we approve it as submitted.
Second.
All right. Motion and a second. Anyone in the audience wish to address this application? Further discussion, members of the commission? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. David,
Thank
will you
you.
need a building permit?
Yes, you'll go through our office for your building permit.
Moving right along, the next request is Mike Gillespie at 1120 North Troy for Soffit expansion. Mr. Gillespie.
Here.
We've, again, reviewed your application. Take it from there.
Really nothing to add to applications to speak for itself.
Members of the commission, anybody don't want to see that?
No, I've seen it, I just had trouble reading it.
This is one piece, what is it, EPDM? Yeah.
Yeah,
one
it's
piece.
really shallow.
Yeah. I mean, we're not gonna see it.
Right,
I move
okay.
we approve it as submitted.
The major thing is the extension of the eave out 2 feet, so you just get more protection for the sills, for the doors
Yeah.
and the windows.
As long as it doesn't change the profile.
Is there a motion?
I move that we approve it as submitted.
Second.
Motion second. Anyone in the audience wish to address this application? Further discussion, members of the commission? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time.
All right, moving right along. Jeff and Susan Hudson for garage door replacement at 116 Oak Road. Ms. Hudson, good evening.
For those of you who don't know where I live, I'm in a 1958 Pease home that was built by Sam and Louise Allen. So ranch-style house. We're proposing new garage doors because I think these are the original doors from when the garage was built. They're kind of rotting. One is even off the track. The doors that we're proposing are similar in style to the ones that Addison Clipson had designed for a side porch that we have where our trash cans go underneath. So we're trying to stay in keeping with that. The hardware is similar and so there we are.
What's the material, Susan?
They're steel doors with a insulation in between the
Mhm.
four.
And it's a wood grain finish. You have the exact same door you're proposing that I have in my garage.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, I have a sample of the wood grain finish,
Yeah.
and then this is the trim color on our house, so they're pretty close.
Well,
I
maybe
move-
you should move.
I move that we approve as submitted.
I'll second.
All right, motion is second. Anyone in the audience wish to address this
We
application?
approved those doors.
Further discussion, members of the commission? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Great job. Nice application.
My
paperwork.
Actually,
Actually, I got my paperwork.
I'm glad you told me. All right. Let's see, the next application is Gregory and Marcia Moya. Did I say that properly? For new family home on West Fountain. Good evening.
Afternoon, good evening, yeah.
Oh, afternoon,
Vince Terry, I'm owner's agent as the architect. We are proposing to build a new, single-family home, 3,600 square feet on a beautiful lot. It's about 100 by 380 and change. You have a proposal application in front of you. 2-story, we have some of our inspiration shots as well that we can share with you. I think it's going to be a beautiful new addition to Glendale. Would you like to add any addition?
No, I think the only thing that we're using this house, is a Homerama house, as the template. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the exact same thing.
Yeah, if you're just gonna hand that to Tom then.
Is that the inspiration house
This is
that you?
the inspiration.
Okay.
Yep.
And I think that keeps in line with your historic code guidelines.
Where is this Homerama house?
I'm sorry, did not.
Where is this house?
That's in Mason, Walco.
Mm-hmm.
Here you go.
It's a Homerama.
Mm-hmm.
2020. brick veneer building with some stone accent and porch in the rear.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Okay. What you are trying to do here, which is to build a new house in a historic district, is it's one of the most difficult design assignments that you can take on. And I think we all appreciate the effort that goes into selecting a historic-looking design and choose quality materials and so on. And I was wondering, we have design guidelines in our zoning code, and also we have this
Correct, right.
booklet.
Right.
Yep, we'll be using those.
Okay. I took a look at your plans and then did an analysis of how it conforms with the code and the guidelines, and I'd like to share that with you. And I have
You have extra copies?
three copies. There's one extra.
There's an
maybe-
extra as well.
And you're going to be making a big investment, so I know that you'll want it to fit in with the neighborhood, right?
Right.
So I'll just go through with what I wrote here, and do it as quickly as I can. So in the zoning code, it says scale and massing, new buildings shall be similar in size, scale, mass, and architectural style as the surrounding pivotal and contributing buildings. Overall building height to width ratios, chimney construction, roof pitch, footprint size, both absolute footprint size and size relative to the lot size, placement and orientation and other pertinent data as deemed important to the overall building appearance, including that which is outlined in the historic preservation guidelines, to assure reasonable adherence to the pivotal or contributing buildings adjacent shall be considered in the design of any new or replacement structures. And there are only 3 other houses on that block. 2 of them are pivotal structures. The one across the street, 25 West Fountain, is an 1845 Gothic Revival stone house with a steep cross-gabled roof, and it's very vertically proportioned. The one next to you is a contributing building. It's an 1890 shingle style. It's symmetrical. It's got a front gabled roof. And I made some other notes here. The entrance is in the front center, and it's about evenly proportioned vertically and horizontally if you look at it. And then there's 40 West Fountain, which is another pivotal structure, an 1861 Italian villa modified in the 1920s. And it is clad in white stucco. It has a very irregular roof with towers, an entrance on the side. It's very vertically proportioned with tall openings and tall chimneys. So I guess my first item here was, in terms of size and scale, perhaps it is maybe a little larger in square footage, but not much. Did you take a look at that, and could you comment on that?
Larger square footage
Yeah.
than
Total square footage
Yeah.
in the terms of the footprint?
than the adjacent property that
Yeah.
you just mentioned?
Yes.
Yeah. So, we have trimmed our home down.
Wow.
It seems to me you're asking to trim even more based on the square footage. of these two samples that you've written here, or?
Well, I'm just wondering how it compares. I'm not
compares.
making
I
a
didn't-
judgment here
Okay.
necessarily, but I just wondered if you had done any
I
calculations.
didn't do any calculations.
Okay. On mass and architectural style, the massing of the new house that you're proposing consists mostly of a box with a hipped roof and then a gable roof garage on the front. So it's really a bit different than this, which has a steeper hipped roof and this is the garage wing. Is that a garage there?
It is.
Okay, which is not projecting in the front, but,
It is.
yeah, but, oh, to the degree that this does?
Yeah, they both project in the front. And they
This
both
much?
have a hip.
With a garage door.
This looks like a much slighter projection in the front,
They
like
both
right here.
project.
Okay,
Yes, Beth,
okay,
They both project.
okay.
To the same distance, no.
No, okay,
But they're
okay.
both projections from the
Mhm.
face, and they're both projections from the front door.
Okay. All right, so what you propose isn't exactly like this.
It's not a duplicate. The
no.
lot won't allow a duplicate. But in the inspiration, you see that is a side garage,
Mm-hmm,
as this one is,
Mhm.
but the doors are on the inside,
mm-hmm.
creating a court.
Okay. This is just my opinion, but I'm saying that stylistically, the new house leans toward colonial revival because this part has a symmetry to it, regular fenestration with a hipped roof and a central entrance. I don't know what you were thinking, but the massing leans towards colonial revival, but to me, the details, like the hipped projection in the front, I'm talking about this central dormer, with the round arch and then a lower arch on the door, the corner porch and the garage, to me, don't seem consistent with that style. So it's, it's a mix.
Transitional for you, or just?
Good word. Good word. As far as the materials go, are you proposing a tan brick or a brown brick? Is that,
It is.
It's what it looks like.
It's a sandstone brown.
Sandstone
but
brown?
Yeah, we haven't finalized the color.
okay. The guidelines say new buildings shall have exterior material of painted wood, material that simulates it, brick, stucco, or stone masonry. So you're good there.
Yeah.
Windows shall be similar to those of adjacent pivotal or contributing buildings. And I think you meet that guideline, with the exception that I saw that you're proposing bronze glass.
In the frame.
Yeah, is that
Yeah,
correct?
it says brown, brown
It says, under windows and doors in your spec sheet,
Yep.
the glass shall be thermal insulated and tinted bronze?
It'll be clear, I was thinking, I was
Okay.
referencing the frame.
Okay,
Okay,
okay. Just on the frames, it doesn't have to be wood.
Okay.
Wood today, if you put wood windows in, it'll rot
Yeah.
pretty quickly. So you can use Ultrex or fiberglass or something on the outside and wood on the inside. That'll save you some money and save you a lot of upkeep. And you can paint those and they'll look exactly like white wood windows on the outside.
Love it, thank you.
You don't want wood now.
Yeah. And if you put mullions in, they have to be simulated, so on the outside, in the inside, and in between. Okay? It's not a huge, it's like $20 a window to put the one in between, and that's what people miss. When you
Space.
see it from a distance, it looks much different. I mean, I like the fact that you're doing the 9/9 on the top and the full on the bottom. It looks beautiful.
Thank
I
you.
think it's very, very nice.
What we were trying to do was trying to blend in, you know, with the
Yeah,
existing.
got it, got it.
And especially when you look at the adjacent building.
Yeah.
That is not, yeah, it's not stone. Yeah,
Right.
it isn't stone. Of course, the two on the opposite end of Fountain, the one across the street and the one at the very
Yeah.
end are stone, but the one that's adjacent to our lot is not.
And the one on the
Right.
corner
Right.
used to be frame, it's been
I
stucco.
agree, yeah.
It's been
I did.
stuck on.
Mhm.
So your question about scale? 25 Fountain is 6,870 square feet. And 40 Fountain is 6092. And 30 West Fountain is 5984. So this is smaller. But, you know, I'm not,
Okay. Good, thank you for that.
And proportionate to the lot, it's good that way.
yeah, I think proportion of the lot, it's, I mean,
Okay.
we can talk about the setback and those types of things, but I don't think it's, when you look through the village and you have all these, you have infills, we have a lot of infills that are smaller than, as people broke up
Yeah.
houses.
Those are all very large houses.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Randy, it's not-
That is,
All right, so to continue, the next item in the guidelines is the building footprint. And the guidelines say to maintain the stature of pivotal buildings, the footprints of any new building erected adjacent to a pivotal building shall not exceed the footprint of the pivotal building. And I thought that the footprint of your proposed house was larger than 30 West Fountain. I mean, I guess it is larger than 30.
well,
West.
you know, it's,
Footprint, maybe,
the
'cause
footprint may be
it's a
The
larger.
footprint, okay.
Yeah, but, and that doesn't include the garage, I don't think, in the finished square feet.
The figure that you just gave us, the
Yeah, yeah, those-
5984? Okay, I
Yeah.
wondered about that.
Yeah, it doesn't, typically
Okay.
that doesn't include the finished.
That is-
That's only
All
the
right.
finished square feet.
Okay, so there's a question there. Now, moving on to the design guidelines in this booklet. The advice is, new buildings should be designed to fit into the character created by its buildings, spaces, street patterns, and landscaping. The most appropriate designs for new buildings respect the context and make an effort to fit in visually. The new house, to me, does not appear to respect the context or fit into the character of the surroundings. All of the surrounding properties have a freestanding garage set to the rear or the side, but not in front. The proposed house has the garage in front, and the massing isn't well integrated. The garage, I'm saying, must be located on the rear of the house.
So it also reads that you don't want to see the garage doors from the street.
Right.
So we did decide to put the garage in the front. If you put a drive to get to the back, then it becomes a challenge to get the footprint that we have. So having a garage in the front and changing the doors so they're not perceived from the street made the most functional sense for an attached
Yeah.
garage. And
Yeah,
that's-
I
that's how we got
understand.
there, yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if as an alternative,
So the
you could
100
orient it so it's, well, yeah, I don't know, but I think the garage on the front is probably the biggest single issue that we have.
We run into that before, it's been a problem. The garage on the front has been a problem in the past. And projecting out like that, we've had trouble with that.
And the setback being so far from the street, the perception of that garage in front, I don't think is a problem. You know, and I guess this is what we're asking for your approval on, because we are so far from the street. Even though the garage sets out in front, you know, it's still from the perception of the street and the environment of Glendale. You know, it's going to look like one building, one mass, not a garage indenture, if you will.
I appreciate what you're saying. I mean, because at the front, you're seeing it in elevation, which is different than looking at it from the side. You know, on the other hand, it is dramatically different than the two pivotal and the one contributing house on the block. And it's hard to think of, I mean, there might be one house that has a front-facing garage on Floral Park, right, that we approved.
Yeah.
And then we
Yeah.
changed the guidelines so that we wouldn't have any more front-facing garages.
And I know the Sims had to do theirs around to the side.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't allowed to do a front facing.
Which one's the Sims house?
Across from Don Lofty.
10 feet.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so,
That, what we were discussing was, you know, the big challenge of having that oriented from behind because of the property line.
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
Yeah, so the property line has a little bump out, like 10 feet.
yeah,
You
Yeah,
know,
that's.
and then with the 15-foot yard setbacks,
Notice it then.
I end up losing my home. You know,
mm-hmm,
the size, the great room,
mm-hmm,
what we're trying to achieve with a master bedroom on the first floor.
mm-hmm,
This is a retirement home,
mm-hmm,
so the idea of vertical solutions, a third floor
Mhm.
like the next door, is not what we are envisioning here.
mm-hmm,
So the setbacks are lined by nice landscaping. You're not on a corner lot. I can't get a drive to go back. So the
Yeah.
garage in the front became the best solution
right.
for a retirement home. It's historic in nature.
Well, I understand what you're saying, and I think with the current orientation of the house, you're exactly right. So that leads to the question of orientation. The guideline says appropriate placement and orientation for a new structure will vary, but the design and footprint should resemble the placement and orientation of adjacent structures. And I comment that this is a narrow lot relative to its depth, which is a challenge. And I'm suggesting that you could consider orienting the house longitudinally with the entrance on the side instead of on the front. And this is the way that 40 West Fountain is oriented. If you go in the driveway, the entrance is on the side. And there's another house at 845 Greenville, which does this also.
What's the address there?
845 Greenville, and you have a copy of this, and so it's right in here. The guidelines also suggest that you should have the same setback as other buildings. The new building has a setback of approximately 212 feet to the front of the garage, and significantly more than that to the front of the house. 30 West Fountain is set back approximately 165 feet. 40 West Fountain is about 128 feet, and 25 West Fountain is about 85 feet. So maybe this was a privacy issue?
Exactly, exactly.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because, you know, to be aligned.
If they
right
move it
across-
up, then they're looking right into the
Yeah,
side of the other
yeah,
house.
you're looking right into,
I don't have a
to
problem
each
with
other's.
that.
But that is a garage, correct? The garage would be looking into the house of
If
the
you-
neighbor.
If you moved it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, well, I mean, even the garage is
The way
set
the
back.
garage is oriented, there's no windows on the garage that looks into my neighbor.
Right.
The way the garage is oriented, it creates a private court for my front door, and I have vegetation on the east. So I have privacy from my neighbor by setting it back as far back as I did,
Mm-hmm.
So is it set that far back for the neighbor on the right?
on the left.
Okay, so the neighbor on the left, if your garage doesn't have any windows on the back side, if you moved it forward,
there wouldn't be any privacy issues anyway, because no one in the garage would be able to look into their home.
You could come forward a little bit, yeah.
But this is actually more pleasant for the neighbor than if he
Yes.
moved it forward. If he moved it forward, the neighbor's looking at a wall.
A brick wall.
Well,
That's right.
that's true,
Yep.
and the guidelines aren't considering that, they're just considering what's the pattern on the street? What are the surroundings, so. Appropriate new buildings should be designed to the scale, massing, and proportion of adjacent and nearby buildings. Scale refers to the size of the building in relation to that of a person. Massing refers to how basic shapes fit together. Proportion is the relationship between the width and height of a building's facade, its openings, and other elements. It also affects the building's sense of scale. The massing of the new house, or the way basic shapes fit together, is very different than its neighbors. This is aggravated by the way the garage and the porch are attached. The front porch roof goes around the corner in an unusual way. The domed porch on the corner looks like an afterthought and is stylistically inconsistent with the style of the house. There is a similar porch at 170 East Fountain, but it has a hip at the corner. And what I'm seeing here is there's a gable end right
Yeah, that could be a
here.
hip.
And so you hip into the corner
That's why it
porch.
changed to a hill.
Yeah.
Couldn't get it into my rendering.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
didn't.
totally agree with that.
Yeah, you wouldn't do that on purpose.
When I looked
Okay.
at that, I'm like, yeah, we're gonna finish that.
But again, keeping
Yeah.
in mind that the actual photo is what we're striving.
Correct.
Yeah, that facade, that is what we're striving.
Yeah.
Okay,
And that's more of a gazebo, I think.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
That's so I can attach, because
all right. There is a similar porch, corner porch, to what you're proposing at 170 East Fountain. And it was part of a new addition. And it was approved, but it has a hip at the corner where it joins that circular porch, and it was added to a Queen Anne style house, which is asymmetrical and very different than the house proposed for 20 West Fountain. And it's interesting to me that this Homerama house is not symmetrical, right? I mean, it's got these
that's correct. It's asymmetrical.
wide windows. I mean, the windows are varied, and the front entrance is off center, and
If you look at the house that's next.
yes.
Is that, I mean, that is not in style. Again, I point to the two opposite homes, the Italian house and the one that's across. the
They're
street from us.
symmetrical.
And-
They're symmetrical.
And I
Mhm.
was gonna say, in the one, I suppose, the house that's gonna be
Mhm.
next to us,
Mm-hmm.
is that symmetrical?
The one next to the Brook, used to
Oh,
be
yeah.
Brooks' house, yeah.
Yes, it is.
So our proposal of symmetrical is in keeping.
With the house
With our
next door,
With all
it's just the assemblage of things.
Well, just
Are-
the point of the symmetrical piece. is
Yeah,
there.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
All right.
All right. And then the last point is, from the guidelines, is designs for new buildings should employ the rhythm and window-to-wall ratio of openings similar to those adjacent. The new design has a much higher proportion of wall to window area. The window-to-wall ratio of the new house is low. Oh, this is a little bit repetitive here, compared to the wall surface. And maybe that's just in certain elevations.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I think it's this east side elevation of really, the front looks good compared to the Italianate, the original house of Italianate that was next door. And the house, the stone house has very small windows relatively. So I don't have a problem with the front. It's that east side, but that's facing the back of the neighbors' houses, so and not visible from the street, so I don't see that as a huge issue. At least for
I
me.
personally prefer the setback the way it is, rather than pulling it up and hurting the neighbor like that by putting a wall right next to their house.
Yeah. Have you shared this with your neighbors?
Yes.
Steve Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh,
Good.
yeah.
Many people don't, so you're one step ahead. You know, we try to be good neighbors in Glendale, and so I'm delighted, you know. I think you've, the garage is a problem for me, because we just haven't allowed front entrance.
Okay.
The brick, we do have some brick houses, you know, many times they took shingle houses and turned them into brick houses over the years. But this is a more modern brick. I mean, if it was me, I'd put hardy board on it. I think it would look like the original, like the house that you did. I mean, maybe you're doing it for, but this is hardy board.
It is our board.
Yeah,
Yep.
and
And that hardy board appears to be on the second floor, the bump out, and that's it, because on the first floor, it looks like stone.
Just at the
That's
entrance.
correct.
Yeah, so it's more of an accent around.
yeah.
I think we'd love to add hardy board upstairs for
Yeah.
our bump outs.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fine, but I think relative to, in keeping with what's in the area, I think hardy board over a good part of the building. I mean, if you want to do some stone accents in the front or something like that underneath the porch, that's just my
I
preference.
think there's a lot of that to support kind of what Randy's saying. I mean, there is quite a bit of lapboard siding, original historic in the area, and it kind of has that warm feel.
Correct.
So, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with that. If it's an accent on the second floor and on the bump out similar, I'm not trying to match that, I'm really not, but I wouldn't concrete yourself to brick. And even if you go into that era of the clapboard, even coming around the side of the building, that east side, that's so mammoth brick, that could soften that up too.
Yeah.
Plus also help contribute to that overall cost,
Yes.
potentially, depending on what the market is at the time.
So I'm glad to hear that. Yeah.
And another thing you could do is, I mean, there's a couple areas in town that have taken, newer builds, taken the brick, not chose the best quality brick, but whitewashed them to give that old character and feel. I'm not saying paint your whole house white, but there's just ways you can work through that and complementing other structures and buildings in the area, making it look like it's been there for a while.
This is what we want to do.
And when you go with that hardy plank, it's more of that smooth instead of that kind of different. Like, it's all your choice, but I'm just saying there's options out there, and don't feel like you have to land on brick just because it does create that massive volume.
Yeah. It makes your house, yeah. You know, overall, I compliment you on what I think is overall a good design. I understand what you're trying to accomplish. I wish I could have a first floor master in my house, but I can't. So we may have to move at some point in time. To me, the biggest issue is the garage, and is there a way to, you know, I have a detached garage. I actually could have put on an attached garage on my back, but we elected to put on a detached garage just because it's in keeping with every other house in the area. And it's a pain in the butt, yes, in the middle of the winter. I agree with that. But it's not as bad as we ever thought it would be. You know, those are my issues. The garage, and then and you know, if you want to turn the house sideways, I would be okay with that too. And then figure out how to put the garage behind the building or for a different orientation. But that's my comments.
What is the material of your fence on the railing on the porch? I don't see anything called out for that. I didn't know what that was.
Yeah, there's no railing on the porch, and we have not defined fencing
So there's no
There is
railing on
no
the
railing
porch?
on the porch.
You're
The
rendering.
spec sheet said aluminum.
Not yard fencing, but the,
Yeah.
this-
Spec sheet said aluminum.
Raj, I
Do they?
think we took, yeah, I think we took those out.
Yeah,
Oh.
and just.
Yeah.
Because you're so
Like they have
low.
columns.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. It may not have made the application,
Uh-huh.
but we did take those out.
Okay.
And I would add just one other point as far as being a good neighbor. The Moys are a very good neighbor, as this is a very open, free-flowing front yard right now. If you've been, and the curved drive covers both lots. So we now have to add a drive to our neighbor so that they can still have access to their drive. So that's the expense, that we're adding a drive during construction for this home.
Yep.
If you move the home too far front, that open front yard is going away, right? It's going to be a bit much. So
Yeah.
we're adding a drive for them, and we've got the house tucked back, so it gives that extra privacy.
I like the
Moving
house
it up
tucked
would
back.
mean less
Yeah,
of
that's
less
fine.
driveway.
Yeah, it would.
Moving it closer to the street
Yeah.
would save a little money.
So
On a
we're
driveway.
taking care of our neighbors by adding that driveway and keeping the separation.
Just for clarification, one more thing. You said on the turret at the front there, the
Yeah.
porch, you said the railing goes away from that, or no?
Yeah.
Because I think you have more than 18-inch drop there on your current rendering, so that's kind of a life safety, so your landscaping would have to be built up.
Correct.
Just to maintain the 18
Correct.
inches.
That's right. So the mound and the mulch will start to come
Yeah,
up
you
and
need
keep
for
that
that,
within
yeah.
12 inches.
If I might, Mr. Kerr, our vice chairman, couldn't be here tonight, but he reviewed your application before and left us some written notes, handwritten notes, just a few. Let me summarize those, and I'll make sure you get a copy of these also. He said, as far as the archways on the second floor and above the main entrance and above the windows to the garage, he thought that those arch elements were awkward and inappropriate. The shallowness, I think, and maybe the fact that they don't match in the actual slope. He thought that they should match. I'm thinking that, at least. He was very, he just pointed out, he didn't say what the solutions were. In pointing to the materials on the second floor bump out, just above the front entrance, he said that the materials should match the house. As to the gazebo at the end of the porch, the high-pitched tip he deemed inappropriate, and I think we've already discussed that as well. He said it should be a simple or a low pitch, and he also pointed to the house on East Fountain as an example. And the other comment he had was the canopy in the back, he deemed as a modern canopy, which was not appropriate, and extend with lower roof. I'm not sure what he meant by that.
I think, because I met with Mr. Kerr when he reviewed the application, he intended to say that the rear porch should be uniform in height
Okay.
from the
It's a split
lower,
level,
instead
high
of a
level.
split level.
So uniform back porch.
Yes, yeah. That was Mr. Kerr's, my interpretation of Mr. Kerr's comments.
Yeah.
And we'll make sure we get a copy to you. You can scan that and send that, can't you?
What's that, to
His
to the
comments,
applicant?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
This is the back, not the side.
Just really quick, your basement plan, your foundation plan there, in the back right corner, the very back, you have 2 windows back there, and if you had ever considered even finishing the space off to be a full basement, a full finished like bedroom down there, you might want to consider, especially resale value, an escape well window. Even you just put it in because it's open to the outside next to the patio, and a grill over top of that for light, even for future. Because whatever bedroom house you have right now, it'd be nice if someone would be able to finish it off. Just a thought, and it's just a window.
We did talk about the bedroom in the basement, and I advised that it's not designed that way right now.
Sure.
So I appreciate your point.
It would be nice,
It
it'd be
could
smart to
be
do
an
that.
addition in the future.
Oh yeah, for somebody else, right?
Okay.
Bob, I'm with you on the setback. Doesn't concern me. There's a few architectural elements which I think we've all spoken of. I think the real issue becomes the garage. I think the fundamental issue becomes the garage. And I think we owe it to them to give them the position before they go away from here about how we feel about it.
About different things, yeah.
Yeah.
So from what I'm hearing from the committee is that definitely that we can see the garage doors. Is that it? Or is it
No,
just its
no.
front?
It's a
Just wanna make
garage
sure.
on the front,
Okay.
which is completely different from the pattern established by.
Okay. The reason I say that is because there are 3 garages. So if the house is here, garage, 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 if that last one turned to shield the rest-ish, I didn't know if that was kind of, because I know on Matthews Court, we don't want to see the garage doors from the street.
It's front loading. yeah.
Correct, we don't want to see
Right.
that.
Yeah.
That's what
So
I
that's
thought
why I
it
was
was too.
It's,
in the front
to
loading.
me, it's more than that.
Okay.
You could also create more of a facade across that front too, just a
Yeah.
wing facade. Make that front a little wider so that it shields from the garages too.
Wing or something,
Yeah.
like brick or something out, shield. Correct, but also I think it's just a graphic thing that wasn't picked up on the front elevation, the bump out. The 2 windows with the arch underneath the little hip there, it just not centered on the
So-
ridge.
So Bob, Daniel, talk more about the shield over the garage.
It's
Or front.
on the front of the, if you look at the front elevation,
Mhm.
if you took and extended that front elevation to the right, just as a facade,
Mhm.
it would shield from you wouldn't see the doors.
The doors.
And it wouldn't be front loading, it would be side loading, and you wouldn't even know that it could be made to not even look like a garage.
And the third car bump could be reversed too, as we change that facade. So it
Yeah.
shields the other 2.
Yeah,
Because I have it bumped in and it could bump out.
right.
Plus also, I mean, if your back garage is there and your front bump out is there, just coming off with some brick thing, element, swoop would actually kind of add
Yep.
another element.
Yep, yep.
I know you're working on a curb, the curb is over the door,
Right.
however your parapet works out for.
I've seen those details before. with
It's just if it would fit within the language of the neighborhood and the surrounding area, and you,
But not.
those happen every now and then, especially with the stone, but not necessarily, I haven't seen this a lot. There may be some over in Carter's Pond, but that's a different
With a
neighborhood.
limestone,
Yeah,
put a light at the end of that. you know,
something to
becomes
like
nice
bring that
Christmas.
character in and also shield it, so.
Okay.
Yeah, as I look at the front facade, we've got multiple different angles and so on. Now, you're gonna fix one of them with the angle on top of the gazebo.
Yeah.
You've got a different, it looks like it's slightly different from the, on top of the garage, the 2 angles on the garage, and then the angle on the,
You mean the arches?
well, this angle, and this
Oh,
angle.
Oh,
And,
the pitch of the gables.
yeah, the pitch of the gable's all, it feels busy to me rather than consistent. So, and then, I just don't know about the curve on the front door. It does mimic the curve over the bay window in the garage. So from that side, it's pleasing. I'm just not sure. I mean, do we have many of those in the village? I'm trying to think
Not in the
of.
historic district.
If anything, I think I'd change the top one to a
Yeah.
spring line to go with the
Yeah.
bottom
If I
one.
do more of an eyebrow on
Yeah.
that second floor, which
Yeah.
will complement the garage.
Mhm.
the
Yeah, I
first
think so.
floor,
Yeah.
Then I have a consistent
Yeah.
curve.
Yes.
Right.
So,
And it's,
good,
and
that's,
it's
I think that.
stylistically inconsistent.
Yeah, personally, I'd soften up the roof over the gazebo too.
Yeah.
Just personal.
Bring that
Yeah, if you
pitch
took
down.
that pitch of the lower part and just brought that up just to where it would naturally come to,
Yeah,
I think that might look nicer.
okay,
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean by that?
I do.
Okay.
Well, you are saying that it should be like a single pitched?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
dome?
double
Yeah,
pitch.
single,
Just bring
single.
Instead of
I'll
a
take the
double.
lower
Yeah.
pitch and
Right.
then just bring
Right.
it together.
Right.
and
Okay.
do your hip on that
Okay.
east face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And close it together that way.
And you could do that in shingle if you want, because it has enough pitch to do it in shingle rather
Yeah.
than go to the copper or whatever you
I'm
want
not gonna
to do.
answer that one. She wants that no.
So-
You're gonna get me in trouble.
So I'm hearing Beth is against the garage in the front. And I hear two of you saying we could soften it and it'd be
Yeah.
okay. I mean, we owe them I believe we owe them a position.
With the
about-
setback as far as it is, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
But with the setback as far as it is, I don't have as much problem. It's not front loading. It's not, the garages aren't facing the front. That is not allowed. But with it to the side, and if you soften that or hide that a little bit, maybe even turn that last one a little, I think we could work, I think you could do something that would work.
Okay.
Randy, to your point, I'm with, in Beth's camp, if you will, opposed in a sense to the location of that garage. I mean, primarily because, as she pointed out, every other garage in that neighborhood is detached and quite separate from the house. Now, I know modern living dictates that houses have attached garages, but I think in this case, we're driven by the guidelines and by the design requirements of our code, which in my mind don't fit. So I think this is a good conversation for the architect and for the owners to consider, maybe come back next month after hearing all of our comments, reviewing the guidelines and even addressing them in writing and giving us a more complete answer. And there might be an answer that would satisfy Beth and I on the garage.
Yeah.
We're talking about an
Well-
extremely small sample size, though, if you go just on the other side of Fountain, same street, and look, there are attached garages right along there.
On Fountain?
On
East
Fountain?
Fountain?
Yeah.
I can't think of any offhand. I mean, the Vicar's new house, which we talked about, which caused the change in
Doesn't
the
Mayor
front lighting.
Matthews' house have, his old house, doesn't it have a garage underneath? You just pull right in.
I don't know which house that is.
The Matthews old
Yeah.
house did,
And
yeah.
that was
50s
the
or
old-
60s house.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was built.
I'm just saying,
Before
you're taking
there
you're
was a
taking a
historic
sample of
district.
3 houses and saying that this should fit 3 houses, when that it doesn't seem fair to me when there's other houses along that same street that you could.
Yeah, well, to my way of thinking, that little triangle is its own neighborhood, sub-neighborhood, if you will. So that's the sample size we have to deal with. Now, there might be ways for them to justify it based on the guidelines, the garage and any of the architectural features that we're talking about. But I haven't heard that yet. I've heard some high-level discussion about it, but not a deep dive into those.
Well, what we're doing is trying to make a suburban Homerama house fit into a historic district. And it may not be a good fit.
I think some of the changes, like the hardy board and getting rid of the different arches and that type of thing, I think we could work with it with some revisions and get it to work myself.
I think now we've given our comments, we cannot design something by committee.
Sure.
And that is something to really be avoided by a commission.
I concur.
Right. And we do have time. If you remember, our regulations require us to act within 75 days of the application being submitted. The application was submitted July the 15th. I did the math earlier, and you can correct my math if I'm wrong, which gives us until September 28th, 26th,
More or less.
a few weeks or a week and a half after our next meeting on the 12th of September. So, I mean, automatically, we have the ability to defer action, to allow the applicant to look at these comments, look at the guidelines more
Yeah.
closely. And I'd like to see them addressed in writing. I mean, it's,
Okay. Just one more thing about a garage on the front is that it impacts the view of it impacts the design of the front of the core of your house by putting that there. So,
Yeah. Also, one more ad for your metal roof
Yeah.
on turret there. I'm not sure if you were leaning more towards copper, but honestly, it's going to patina. So you can get an aluminum roof
Yeah.
that's a patina green,
Correct.
much more affordable,
Yep.
and pops. It looks again like it's been there a little while,
Correct.
settling in.
Very good, Daniel.
Just a thought.
I love your solutions tonight
Um,
because we still get to where we want to go, but we're keeping our costs in line, back in line. So
Just trying to help.
I'd love the petition coming back with these suggestions and showing you the graphic solutions to the details, the eyebrows upstairs, the hardy board, and the adjustment of the garage shield wing in its setback position, which I think will be respectful to the other homes on the street on this east.
Plus, when you start, if you, for however you address the garage
Yep.
or revisit the garage, if the first bay of that does turn, therefore it's not creating a solid wall, and maybe it could move up a little more
Yeah.
without really blocking the entire view. Therefore, it's coming a little closer, but not enough that the garage in the front is really going to still make a point.
I think what's neat is I still create from a symmetric entry a asymmetric massing, which starts to address both concerns that I heard tonight.
Let me just add a simple question. We have lots of driveways that, because of smaller lots, pre-cars, right? And so on. If you detached the garage, which is a 3-bay garage, and put it across the back of the property, you would have space to get a driveway next door. Now, that might not be what you want from a lifestyle standpoint, but I would take a look at it, because, I mean, like your neighbor, having the garage up the side, you could do that. You could decide which side you want to put it on, depending on where you want to place it on the property. But you could, it appears here that you would have the space for this. I also have a hard time, I look at the mass of 30 West Fountain, and it says it's almost 6,000 square feet. And you're saying this is 3,600. I guess it's because you only have a partial second floor. I guess that's what it really is that's driving it. It just looked,
Yeah, that's a 3-story house,
yeah,
maybe 4.
yeah.
Yeah, we're not looking at total square footage, we should be
But
looking at the
mass,
footprint.
yeah.
And, well, okay, the massing, you're
Yeah,
right.
yeah, and,
You're right.
and if you did that, it would also, you could move the house up a little bit and still be not looking at your neighbor's house. You'd have space to put the garage in the back, and you might want to reorient the courtyard, et cetera, over to the opposite side, just flip it. And I think that would be I think that would get you a 100% vote here with a few other things that you address.
That's
I'm taking.
that's presumptuous.
I know
Randy.
it's presumptuous, Randy, but this is the
That
biggest
is-
thing.
One other question that came up is the garage doors here seem
I
very
think it's a
low
Photoshop
in
problem.
proportion to the wall.
We'll fix
Okay,
that.
and a little more
Okay,
detail
5 or
on
6 foot
the
doors.
garage doors? Okay.
Now, I did have another question as well on your site plan. You're showing I'll call it an eyebrow of paving in that bend, but I don't think that appears anywhere else. Is that? Will that
turnaround?
Yeah, the turnaround.
Yeah, so it's all kind of a stamped concrete, and then you can actually turn around and come back out. A fountain or some kind of landscaping would be in the center of that.
Oh, I thought you were saving the tree. There's a mature tree right there.
It's a dog of a tree.
It is?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
nothing that, it's
Okay.
overgrown weeds, so we'll put some new stuff
Uh-huh.
that will go for the next 100 years
Oh,
there.
okay.
Is there something in our code about eliminating paving as much as possible?
We've
For
talked about
appropriateness?
it ad infinitum, but I don't think we changed our code.
Or like a maximum impervious area?
There's not a maximum, it's just that it should you're correct, Tom, that it should be reduced as much as possible. But
Yeah,
that's an very interpretive.
yeah. Well, I included it in my
You could soften
comments.
it up, though. There's a paving that has like grass in the paving. You can drive over it. It's really nice stuff, and when you look at it from an angle, it looks like grass. Yeah, you can drive on it, and it's really, really nice. And it's also not gonna be as hot, because you're talking about this giant area of paving, and the kind of weather we've had now, you're gonna feel like you're in the desert out there.
Yeah.
It's another good reason to keep the drive in the front, reducing that. Well, I could show them some details about it may be tough on the heels, but we'll talk. Yeah. It's like a paper that's grass, you still cut it.
It's sort of a combo of pavers and grass. It's a pattern.
Keep in mind that you're hearing a collection of comments from individuals and not a unified opinion from the commission.
And the question is, do we get a summary of what?
We are taking minutes, so those are being, not transcribed, but there'll be summary minutes.
Okay.
So we'll get that. The video is available, right?
I will email you guys a video for this meeting, so you'll have to rewatch it.
Yeah.
But you'll get obviously word for word,
Okay.
comments, questions, that kind of thing. So I'll email that to you tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Let me ask real quick before you even get a motion, if there's anyone in the audience who wishes to address this application?
I had a question.
We have a new house.
I'm sorry?
I'm happy that we're having a new house in Glendale. More property taxes, so.
Yes, sir. Mr. Parrish.
I live at 176 Washington Avenue, and several years ago, I remember that we had a house built, which was 2 houses west of my house.
Mhm.
It was a monstrosity of a house built in the historic block section, but none of our houses were brick. Came to council and voiced my displeasure of them building a castle where all the houses in that area were shingle, and here's a brick house on a 40-foot front, which was smaller than any of our lots. But it was approved, so I'm just curious as to the difference from then and now.
I don't know the address of that house.
That was Amy's house.
Who?
Soffit.
Simon Cooper?
Yeah, yeah.
I believe that house is outside the historic district, so.
But it being in conformity with pre-existing structures, it should always not be affected by, it should fit in. It doesn't matter if it's in the historic district or it's in the neighborhood. It should fit in with the existing houses that are there.
Well, I don't disagree with you, but again, we're regulated
Well,
by,
40 foot
well, let me finish my answer. We're regulated by the ordinance. If the ordinance gives us the authority to control brick, control material, control size and massing and so forth, that's what we do. If it's outside the historic district, we don't have that control.
Well, before the historic district, we had guidelines of things fitting in with pre-existing structures.
I can't speak what happened before the historic district, that's before my time.
I mean, that is with any community. Other houses and new houses being built fit in with the other houses. They don't have houses that are so short that 2 people standing side by side can touch the other person's house because they want to build a castle. But you guys have that authority, you have the guidelines because we're outside of the historic district, but we still exist as residents.
All right, thank you. Any other comments, members of the commission? I feel a motion to defer coming on.
I move we defer till the next meeting.
I'll second.
Motion second. No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. September 12th, you've heard of our next hearing date. Same, it'll probably be upstairs, won't it, at that point?
It should be. The only reason we're down here is because of the election tomorrow.
Same building, just upstairs probably, so.
Okay.
All right.
Welcome to Glendale, and thank you very much.
We've been a part of Glendale for years, over 40 years.
Okay.
We're members of Mount Zion.
Oh, very good.
Oh.
Wonderful.
So we should send the solutions ahead of that meeting, just like we did.
It
Yeah,
would be very helpful, yeah.
I'll reach out to you guys with the link to the video, and then you can just send it to me. Uh-huh.
Thank you. Size of it. Yeah, they did. Let's wrap things up here. Under other business, well, let me ask, is there anybody in the audience who wishes to address the commission on any other item? Sure.
Other than, my name is Kevin Parrish, 176 Washington, Glendale resident. Other than the interior and exterior decorations you guys are seeing, what have you done as far as new ideas for preservation for anything historic in Glendale? Other than these meetings about changes in people's properties.
I'm not sure I fully understand the question. I mean, by way of a partial answer at least, I know that we are consistently giving thought to expanding the historic district. There's not been a formal action taken on that, but there's always been talk of whether or not certain areas of the village would qualify for historic designation, for inclusion in the landmark.
Well, the original plans for Glendale included the section that I live in when it was drawn up. After you guys were established, and then you expanded to include up to St. Gabriel's and all of that area. That was not in the original plans of Glendale. But I'm just curious because I've heard of no reports of any history. Beth, I've heard of no reports of any historic significance. I mean, you guys didn't even think that the historic black school was significant. So you didn't vote to try to save it, but I guess it is significant.
Yes, it is. I guess in terms of recent developments, we are working on revisions to the guidelines for signs, right?
Right.
And that's happening soon.
Today?
Today.
And Beth, didn't you work on the submittal for including more buildings into the 50-year mark for?
Well, that was several years ago.
But that was still something we've done.
Well, yeah, several years ago, I wrote a amendment to the National Register nomination, which included Eckstein as a contributing building.
Yeah.
But somewhere along the line up until this date, it lost its significance when you guys had time to vote on it and we're going to raise it. I mean, well, not raise it, but turn it into a convalescent home, compete with Maple Knoll.
Yeah. Well, that's not happening, is it?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
We're so fortunate that it did.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think you guys have any control over that building now, do you?
Yes.
It's in the historic.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a contributing building in the district.
I mean, it's just in the district, but as far as you guys having any say-so, since CPA has it, I don't think that you guys...
Well, we have as much control over that building as we do any other privately owned property here in the village.
So you can still tear it down?
Can we tear it down? We can't tear it down.
Oh, okay.
Now, somebody, the current owner, petitions us for demolition, we'll take a look at it.
I just thought I'd bring that to council on this recorded line, just to document. Also, I thought we had mass mandates for the meetings. That was in the notification. that
Nope,
was sent
we
out,
don't.
that
We don't.
We would ask politely for people to wear masks.
That was for a laws committee meeting later this week. That is not for
That is
these
not for the
meetings.
council meeting for
No,
tonight?
sir. No, sir.
So it's optional.
Yes.
Even with the numbers of COVID up in Cincinnati area and Hampton County?
Doesn't help have an iron chin anyway.
Anyone else wish to address the commission? I do have one item under other business, referring back to what Beth said. The sign code amendment, I want to give everybody an update. And by way of an update, it's probably easier for me just to give a brief history. You recall that this commission looked at the amendments to the sign code back in August of 2021. And actually, on the last day of that month, we approved some draft amendments to that code. And those amendments were driven largely by a Supreme Court decision called Reed versus Town of Gilbert, which dealt with a prohibition against content-based signs. So we revisited and redid the whole sign code in August of 2021. Sent our recommendation on to council, and council began its review. Council made a very thorough review and had some additional questions, comments, and suggestions. They, meaning the council, referred that back to our subcommittee, which was Beth and Dan and I. And Dan and Beth and I met in early this year, May, and I think again in July. Lo and behold, the Supreme Court came down with yet another decision relative to signs. In this case, it's a case called City of Austin versus Reagan National Advertising, which essentially held that local communities through zoning can regulate billboards or off-premise signs. And that's an item that we didn't touch in the previous draft amendment because we thought that it was part of the other previous Supreme Court decision. So with that green light, so to speak, from the Supreme Court, that was another issue that the council asked the subcommittee to revisit. We did that. We met, I told you, in May and once again in July, and the committee came back to the mayor and to the council with some suggested changes. The primary change was our suggestion that billboards or off-premise signs be prohibited in Glendale. That was softened just a bit to allow very, very small off-premise signs, no bigger than 11 by 17, basically a poster-sized placard that you normally would see in a storefront window. Everybody who's been to the Bluebird Bakery and you've seen essentially signs in the window for St. Gabriel Festival or for something else. That's technically an off-premise sign, but we wanted to at least give the authority, the ability to have some flexibility for those types of signs. So we, the subcommittee, made a suggestion along those lines, made a few other cleanup changes, some clarifications. One other thing of interest that the subcommittee changed was a suggestion that the temporary signs in residential districts be reduced in size from 9 square feet down to 4 square feet. So again, those are all in draft form. The subcommittees sent that on to council. I don't know if that's going to be reviewed tonight by council. It's on the agenda, but
No, council would really like to get input from the commission before it makes a final decision. In fact, that's why we sent it down in the first place, really. That and the fact of this new Supreme Court decision in Austin.
Right.
But we really wanted to hear from the Planning Commission because there were some changes, that were being made there, and we want to be, in sync with the experts.
Right. As far as procedurally, what we suggest and what we would like to do is, David, do you have the copies?
Mm-hmm.
Ask the full commission once again to review those changes.
They can pass.
Yeah. These are changes, red line changes. The red line changes that you see are the suggestions of the subcommittee as inspired, if you will, by council and by the mayor's comments. We're not going to do that tonight, but for the next meeting in September, if you would, take a look at those, bring any questions, bring any comments, and we'll bring it up for a vote at that point for further recommendation to council.
Yeah. And this would hold true for political signs also, right? So we couldn't have these gigantic political signs.
We can't have gigantic signs. We can't
Right.
Political signs, we can't think of any signs as far as the content.
Right.
So if you want to
So
have
it'll hold for all signs.
Yes, it applies to any kind of sign.
Good.
The irony, of course, is that in allowing some regulation of off-premises signs, well, you have to look at the content of those signs to figure out whether they're off-premises or not. Because the off-premises part is that you are
Not associated
touting
with it.
something that is
Right.
not being dispensed on the premises where the sign is. So the Supreme Court is never lets consistency get in the way of whatever it really wants to do. Boy, I could get myself in trouble, I guess. But no, I'm not practicing a lawyer anymore. So anyway, we struggled with that. Nobody wants billboards in Glendale, and at the same time, we don't want the Bluebird, not to be able to tout the Princeton Marching Band event or something.
All right. Again, that'll come up next month, September 12th, for our meeting. That's all I had under other.
Okay.
Anyone else have an item to bring up? Mr. Mayor?
I move we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay. signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.